Let's move on to discuss history of movie scripting. Written scripts were used for stage drama ever since the art form was established. The writers for movies initially borrowed the techniques from those who wrote for the theatre. When films became a more viable form of entertainment, scenarios came into existence. As early as the 1890s, when films were about a minute or two long, scenarios provided a brief summary of the program for the first-time viewers of the medium. It also served as a device for marketing silent movies which communicated through muted gestures, mime, and title cards. The script written for the French film A Trip to the Moon 1902 by Georges Méliès is widely considered as the earliest example of a modern script. The groundbreaking silent science fiction film, which used a lot of special effects, was also important for its very imaginative story about a group of people who attempts to travel to moon. The phrases like loading the gun and splashing into the open sea in title cards provided simple information about each scene of the movie. Such title cards describe the action and location, making it the closest example of a modern screenplay. Edwin S. Porter's 1903 film, The Great Train Robbery, used the master scene format for the first time. Its script provided a structure for scenes suggestive of cuts instead of the title cards. From those days, scripts came handy in estimating the amount of footage needed for a film. As narrative methods matured and film duration increased, the production process became more complex and the need for scripting became paramount. As the popularity of the films gained manifold, the first movie theatre opened in Pittsburgh in 1905. In 1910, the number of theatres rose to 10,000. This widespread expansion of movie theatres reinforced the need for an organizational structure for filmmaking. Along with this, audience expectations also began to rise. Next, evolution of film production and scripting. The earliest films were often solo projects from conception to completion. Referred to as the cameraman system, this was the most primitive of filmmaking methods. Soon, directors became central to the process, but they had only a vague idea of what to shoot. Often, crews kept waiting while the director planned what to film next. Thomas Ince, an already well-established American filmmaker of the times, began collaborating with scenario writer Richard Spencer in 1912. Spencer, a former journalist, went on to write or co-script many of Ince's remarkable films of the decade, including The Battle of Gettysburg and Custer's Last Fight. Writing for film thus became a specialized work fetching good compensation. Ince later founded Inceville Studios on 18,000 acres in California, which revolutionized filmmaking. He made big-budget productions with immense coordination and practical sense. Naturally, Ince required each film to have a script prior to production, which he used to budget the film. He gave equal importance to cameraman and scriptwriter in his productions and made sure that everyone knew the production plan. This helped him balance art with his business interests. The writer and the script suddenly became paramount. Shooting scripts came to be readily used. Across all facets of production in Ince films, every crew member had the precise knowledge as to how each movie was to be filmed. One of the earliest books on topic of screenwriting was titled How to Write Photoplays. Written by Anita Loos and John Emerson, the book encouraged writers to consider screenwriting as a practical and lucrative profession. Within its pages, the book laid out what a writer should expect while writing for films. It encouraged the would-be writer to write synopsis without worrying about learning how to put it in continuity form. A typewriter, dictionary, and a thesaurus were all that were required. The first feature-length sound film was The Jazz Singer, 1927. With its commercial and critical success and synchronized dialogue, the decline of silent film was sure to follow. The dialogue was then vital to film, and screenplays became important in filmmaking. The gradual establishment of a film industry and the formation of big studios in California, which came to be known as Hollywood, further established the primacy of screenplays. During 1930s, major studios of the time such as Paramount, 20th Century Fox, MGM and Warner Brothers began to interfere in all stages of filmmaking. Further, they either owned theaters or set the terms of their sales of films to theaters. Studios worked within the contract system for all personnel, including directors, actors and screenwriters. The studios more or less controlled every facet of a film's production, including script, direction, acting, editing and music. It was during this time that the continuity script was developed. A continuity script describes the complete action and scenes in entire narrative in detail and in the order in which they are shown on the screen. It also includes other features like sound effects, actors' accent, emotion, etc. At its core, the continuity script provided clarity to the pre-production process in terms of location and shots. A projection for the number of shooting days could also be made. With its importance in every aspect of production, the need for consistency and uniformity in script was desirable. It was at this time that script began to function as a blueprint. A studio's major objective was efficiency and cost control, and a producer became accountable. He became in charge of organizing every aspect of filming. Naturally, the producer's role became more prominent than the director's during the studio era. The auteur theory in 1950s became another pivotal moment in the evolution of cinema. Originating in France around 1954, the theory is that it is the director who creates the film, and hence it is the director who is the driving force of filmmaking. The team approach to making a film and the importance of the screenplay and screenwriter suddenly took a back seat. Instead, it was the director who was seen as the true author of a film. Alfred Hitchcock was considered an auteur by French film critics, but he had not written screenplays for his successful films. Around 1970s, actors' salaries along with the cost of producing a film rapidly increased. Actors became more selective in choosing roles, and the development of filmmaking as a package became prevalent. Quality scripts that could attract a sought-after director or actor regained prominence in the new system, and so-called spec script or speculative screenplay written by a screenwriter with no chance of sale gained in popularity. Academics note that the current trend in script writing is towards a more literary style, readability being the key factor. More recently, the Schreiber theory that directly refute the auteur claim and endorse a writer-centric approach, emphasizing the screenplay as the dominant factor in the making of a film, is also a hot point of filmic discussions. Screenplay was and is born out of business necessity, just like it was in Thomas In's time. It can be argued that just as the modern screenplay is as much an art form, it is also a business tool used in day-to-day filmmaking.